Welcome to Fierce Compassion Podcast. My name is Brett William Simpson and I'm your host. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're second on your own priority list and you're seeking a little bit of self-compassion and self-love, if you're looking to build resilience emotionally, mentally, physically, and even spiritually, then this is the podcast for you. I'm a spontaneous remission cancer survivor, and over the past 13 years, I've learned why some people pass from cancer and while others with the same diagnosis, with the same prognosis, end up living these amazing and fulfilling lives. So I tend to use very big words now: psychoneuroimmunology, epigenetics, neuroplasticity, to sound very clever, but more so to really explain and demystify the magic, or actually the science of what really feeds our health and what starves disease. So Fierce Compassion Podcast shows up people who have wisdom in compassion, in healing, and in being fully human. So if you're willing and capable of taking responsibility for your healing and life, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Fierce Compassion's third podcast. And today I have the incredible privilege of introducing you to Kate Spreckley. She's the founder and director of Spirit Pathways. She's the author of the book Awakening the Heart. She also authored Pathways to Mastery, which is a personal growth and spiritual development course. She is a spiritual coach, an energy healer, a speaker, a facilitator. Her mantra is Awaken, Heal, Evolve. Kate has been my guide and my coach, my friend for the past 16 years. She has literally helped me grow into a really decent human being, as I would put it. She's helped me develop deep self-compassion, and she's been the seed and the support that I've needed in order to grow into the best version of myself. This is a very playful but very meaningful hour of podcast, and I really hope you enjoy it around the value and the meaning of personal growth and spiritual development in these challenging times of COVID-19. The reason why I'm doing these Fierce Compassion podcasts is really around connecting to people to their own hearts. And I think that for me is the end game around coping with whatever we're coping through. And at the moment, presently, it's COVID-19 and all the fear and uncertainty around it. And I think it's the perfect time to have this conversation. So I'm going to hand over to one of my closest, most amazing human beings that I know.
Okay, so back to what I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a little difficult for me to explain in kind of one sentence and maybe even in a paragraph to explain what it is that I do, because a lot of the work I do focuses very much on the individual person. So there isn't a prescribed way of doing things that I operate from. It's more a case of who is this person that I'm being presented with, and what is it that they need, not from an awareness of what I think, but more about and what they are asking for, but more about what is it that their soul is almost saying, this is what I need. So I like to connect to people from a soul perspective and to be able to access that potential within them, and then see how do we clear away whatever is blocking that potential, that pure potential of them being able to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. So that process happens in a number of different ways, and for some people it's coaching. For other people, it takes a more psychological slant where we look at unpacking their past and the patterns and behaviors that they've kind of taken on to cope and survive in their lives and in the world. For others, it is an energetic process where we're working to clear energetic patterns that are limiting and confining them to certain ways of living and being in the world and in their lives. And then for others, it is a deep dive into who am I? Why am I here, and what is my purpose? Everyone has purpose for being here on this earth, and every person's life has purpose. And some people have a deep desire to become more and more aware and more conscious of what that purpose is. So that deep dive takes us into exploring that purpose and the reasons. And I think, for me, I have and continue to be fascinated by people as individuals. who are you? How did you become who you are today?
Sure.
And why are you not fulfilling your full potential? Why can you not access that? Why are you feeling afraid? Why are you feeling sad? Why are you feeling trapped? Why are you not seeing the beauty of the world that we live in, and feeling the connection to the earth and to nature and to all of those incredible things? So for me, it's like unpacking every person to kind of help them to see the true essence and the true beauty of them as an individual.
I've never heard you explain it like that, and it makes complete sense because of, just as you were saying that, I just remember some of especially the decisions that I made to get me into what for me was a bit of a dark night of the soul with cancer, and then because 16 years ago, I was seeing you before I got diagnosed, through my diagnosis and treatment, and after my diagnosis, and and for me, my cancer journey was essentially a reflection of the culmination of the decisions that I had made for myself up until that point. And I realized the accountability of that lay with me. So I do find it very interesting that it makes intellectual sense for me. What I experientially feel with you is that you have access to a higher version of me.
Yes.
You have a conversation with a more intelligent version of my personality, which exists in some level of intelligence within me, without me, like in some space. And I know for those who are curious around what can be labeled the esoteric or the spiritual, but it's like my wisdom. And when you have kind of helped me go, okay, so Brett, your best version of who you are in a higher level of wisdom is kind of giving you this sort of feedback that really lands for me, and it still lands for me when I'm sitting with you going like, I'm struggling with this, and then this wisdom that you shouldn't know comes through that is perfectly adept to where I am, the decisions I've made, the quandary I'm sitting in, and gives me guidance for the path moving forward. And Kate, what you've also done for me is, and I know this to be something that I've grown in awareness around, is energy healing. And I've had some really bizarre, uncanny experiences with you clearing my energy around you saying to me, like, there's something wrong with my right knee.
Yeah.
And where that, how many times we go through that, and what that represents, and where that is in my lineage, and the message that my body's trying to tell me, and my realization through working with you that I've been given all of these signals that I have not paid any attention to, that ultimately culminated in me getting cancer, that's culminated in some really bad situations that I put myself into life. I mean, I've been to Chooks twice, and and when I come and see you, I start to see the wood for the trees, or whatever that expression is, that on what a better version of myself is trying to tell me. So can you speak a little bit into energy clearing and what you do in the energetic space too?
Sure. I mean, also what I'd like to just point out as well is that, you talk about, ignoring the signs, and the messages, and therefore culminating in these dramatic events in your life. What I think I just want to kind of put that into a picture for people to be able to understand. I think that if we can acknowledge, not necessarily even accept, but just acknowledge that from a perspective, from a greater perspective, we are a soul that is ancient and wise, and has chosen to come into this life to experience healing, growth, development, and evolution. And there are certain things that we have planned on this journey to experience that is going to facilitate the healing, the growth, and the evolution. And so I always like to think of it as you're on this path and you're walking and everything's clear in front of you, and you come to a pebble. You look at the pebble and you think, oh, it's just a pebble. You step over it, you keep going. Then you come to a stone and you think, oh, just a stone. Step over it. Get to a rock. Oh, just a rock. Get to a boulder. Climb over the boulder. And then you get to a mountain and you got to climb that mountain to get over the other side so that you continue on the path. And that is kind of like what the messages and the signs are. They start as a pebble. And if you don't deal with the pebble, you're going to get a stone. And if you don't deal with the stone, you're going to get a rock. And if you don't deal with the rock, you're going to get a boulder. And if you don't deal with the boulder, you are going to get a mountain. So it is, that life is always showing us where we need to course correct, for want of a better word, or where we need to shift our perspective or expand our perspective or deal with something that is emerging within us. And for some people, that is really challenging, because as a kind of Western society and culture, we haven't been given the tools to access and to work through that. For how long has it been seen? Has therapy been seen as a weakness? Or otherwise, if you're going to a therapist, you have a mental illness. There's something wrong with you. Rather than, I'm going into therapy because I want to learn about myself and I want to stop doing the things that hurt me, or stop doing the things that cause suffering or pain.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to clarify that, and as a result, I've forgotten what your question was.
I knew it would be fun. I didn't realize how much fun it would be.
I've remembered. It was about the energy work.
Yes. But just on that, like, I feel before you get to that, Kate, like you said two things that are really, really powerful, and I just like to speak into. So the pebble, and then the rock, and then the boulder, and then like that for me was the cancer, and I had to have the mountain in front of me and the pain of that journey in order to kind of open myself and break myself open, which I am so grateful for. And I know this is weird and very ex-Lance Armstrongish, but it's probably it is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I know my soul called for that. So I find that analogy really powerful, and I feel like the world is at that point right now, because I'm seeing all the same symptoms that when I went through cancer: the trauma, the denial, the not being able to stomach or digest the truth of what's happening externally against the truth of what's happening internally, and on all of that process. And then also, I'm going to leave that one hanging, but also like therapy, like you are my primary therapist, and I've also got another psychotherapist that who's a priest at the same time, who I got from you, and who's the most amazing human being, and has really changed my life in the last 3.5 years. So I just wanted to kind of put my stamp on that, just going like if you're not working with somebody, I think it's, let me take the judgment out of that. It is incredibly beneficial to have somebody wiser than you in certain aspects of your life be able to kind of give you wisdom around where you are honoring yourself and where you're not. Anyway, yeah. Now,
I mean, I do. I totally agree. I think some form of therapy is essential for everyone. Let's look at the state of the world. I mean, the state of the world is a reflection of the state of us.
Yeah.
If we look at the natural world, the oceans and the waters of the planet are poison. And if we look at the water of the planet as a reflection of our emotional state, well, then our emotional state is poisoned. We need to do something about it. If we look at the state of the actual physical earth, the soil, and that sort of stuff, it's a lot of it has been poisoned as well, and is quite toxic. And representing the physical body, it's a reflection of our physical form and our physical body, and how toxic many people are because of all the toxins and the poisons that we ingest through our food and through bad eating habits, etc. So I truly believe that every single person should be in some form of therapy. I don't think that anyone who is in this world is doesn't have something to work through and to heal. I mean, I continue my own therapy because it is essential that as for me to get to know myself on a deeper and deeper and deeper level, to unpack what is it that is limiting me in whatever ways that I'm being limited in, or because we're all growing, we're all healing, we're all evolving. It's not just a path that is only for some. It's a path that is for everyone. How you do that, of course, is up to you. You can choose the conventional psychotherapy route, which has huge benefits, as both you and I know, or you can choose the alternative route, which also has its own benefits and its own unique offerings.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly valuable, because what I find as well, I suppose it can hopefully give permission to other people to desensitize them to that feeling around therapy as if, you're a broken human being. Although there's truth in that in any case.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
And I think we need to recognize that certainly if we look at the time that we're in now, we can't get away from what's broken. We're in isolation. We are with ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yes, we may have other people around us, but that's only distracting for so long. But we've got to sit with the reality of this is my life. And for some people, it is really, really difficult and challenging. And I think it's an opportunity, a real opportunity for people to be able to see where things need to change and where in themselves they need help, and how they can start to find the wood between the wood from the trees.
And I think on that, it's probably the most valuable direction to go in for this chat, is because where we are, this whole COVID-19, I think we're on day 33 or something of the lockdown right now. And I find I've gone through this rhythm of going deep into, and we spoke about it just before this, was around the conspiracy theories and the uncomfortable truth around what that's revealing, the what we're doing to the planet, and how deeply some of those articles and news and things are really starting to kind of make me feel. So there's this roller coaster that I'm going through, which I really, really recognize from many periods in my life where I've gone through, where there's this stretch happening at that moment. So I suppose the obvious one, Kate, and this is what I come to see you around, is what do you feel is going on right now from your spiritual perspective, from your wisdom around what we're going through? How can we deal with the fear and the uncertainty that we're going through this COVID-19, and what I feel is like exactly what you said, is like we're truly facing ourselves for the first time, for many people, for the first time in their lives. And we're also, that is happening in a micro and a macro environment, where we're looking at the earth and we're looking at within ourselves. Can you give any wisdom around where we are from your perspective?
I think there are two aspects to that question, which I'll try and answer as simply and as clearly as I can. From a macrocosm perspective, there is this incredible shift in human consciousness which is happening. And that is a collective shift. It's a collective awakening, for want of a better word. That is, I suppose, removing the illusions under which many of us have lived for hundreds of years. We're starting to see the truth of what we have bought into with regards to how our cultures and our societies have been set up, the structure of our world, and how that has influenced and impacted us as individuals, and has impacted and influenced how our society and our culture has developed over the last a few hundred years. That shift in human consciousness is being influenced by a greater cosmic shift that occurs on a planetary level. So, if we can acknowledge that the Earth is a living, breathing being, it is not just this rock that's floating around in space. It is. I mean, we see it through nature that it is a living, breathing being. It exists. It grows. It shifts. It changes. We see the different cycles happening through the seasons. We see the movement of the tides in the ocean, for example. All of this stuff. There's movement. There's life. It is alive, and as a result, it is connected to a larger picture of what is in our galaxy, and influenced by the sun and the moon and the different planetary alignments that happen all around us. And I mean that's quite a complex space to move into, and can be quite overwhelming and daunting for people who just kind of waking up to, hey, something's going on. Yeah. But the purpose of why I'm trying to start there is that because of this greater cosmic shift that is happening, the Earth itself is evolving, which is a natural process that occurs all the time. And it is something that has been monitored by indigenous cultures all over the world. I mean, the Native American people have prophecies that are going back hundreds of years around the times that we're in now. If people want to go and have a look, the Hopi prophecies are the ones that come to mind. The Mayan calendar, all of that information that came out of those incredible people. Even the Bushmen in Africa hold information and wisdom. The Australian Aboriginal people hold information and wisdom around this time that we are in. And it's not that it's something that is started happening 33 days ago. This is something that we've been moving towards for certainly since just after World War II, where there was a significant shift in the Earth itself that triggered a shift in human consciousness. So if you think about it actually all started, if you want a date, is in August of 1949. There was a massive earthquake that occurred, and this earthquake created a shift in the energy within the Earth and initiated a movement of that energy on the planet. And so we've literally, if you want to think about it, this wave started in 1949 and has been building and building and building and building until we are now at this point, which is the peak. And at the peak of this this time, there is the opportunity for the collective now to wake up to the fact that there is this shift in human consciousness happening, but also to recognize that it is a natural evolutionary process. It is not something that we need to be afraid of. We're not being punished for being evil. We're not being punished for destroying the earth. We don't have the power to destroy the earth. Yes, we've caused damage. Yes, we've definitely done that. But that damage can certainly be undone. And, if you want proof of that, look at Chernobyl. Mm. Chernobyl was one of the worst ecological disasters that happened. No human being can live there. Google the pictures of Chernobyl now. They've seen drones there. It's incredible.
There's wolves there and all sorts of stuff going on there.
Animals, plants, everything is thriving. It's, so we must stop thinking we've damaged we're destroying the planet. There's no ways we're destroying the planet. We are not that powerful, and we're certainly alive. What's that?
We're destroying ourselves.
Yes, exactly. So we're more destroying our own environment than we are destroying the planet. Mm. So on a macrocosm, that's kind of what's happening. If we look at it as what is happening to each individual person, it is about tapping into the truth of who you are. Who am I as an authentic being? That word authentic is often kind of thrown around. I don't really know that people understand what being authentic means. It means being really who you are, warts and all. Not pretending to be something or someone because that's who you've been told that you need to be, or that's what society or your culture or your religion expects you to be. It's about being you. So many people who kind of hop onto the spiritual bandwagon kind of think that they've got to be all spiritual and dress in white and become vegan and walk around barefoot, and it's like, no, that's not what spiritual is about. Being spiritual is about being authentic. It's about connecting to an aspect of you that is far greater than just this human aspect of you. And it's about aligning yourself with that greater aspect of you so that you start to live life from the truth of who you are, not from the influence and opinions of the world around you. And in that way, you actually start to enjoy life more. You find yourself getting excited and passionate about things that you really love, that you start to follow a life path that excites you and brings and makes you feel enthusiastic about jumping out of bed every day. And it just brings a greater sense of peace and acceptance and love and joy essentially into your lives. And that's really where we are right now. That is what we're supposed to be tapping into and awakening in ourselves, not getting sucked into the fear and the anxiety and the panic around what's going on and am I going to be okay and am I going to survive? When we do that, we fall into that survival mode, which then gets triggered on a physiological level, that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism.
And disease comes from that.
Exactly, and then that the consequences of that are disease and stress that is unnecessary and a whole lot of other things. But once you're also locked into survival mode and you're operating from that place, you can't see the wood from the trees.
Yeah,
you cannot see the opportunities that are presented to you. You cannot tap into your own intuition, which guides you through these kind of crisis moments. You can't tap into the creativity that you need in your thinking to find the solutions for the problems that you face.
Sure. There's so many things going on in my head that I can go in so many different directions, Kate. I suppose, sure. What is the like one of the first things around that you speak about, like finding your authentic self? And I've had issues with, or I've fostered a bad relationship with alcohol over the past 10 years. So I've chosen to give it up, and it's taken me 3 years with a lot of compassion to get to a point from the 3rd of January 2020 when that was kind of done for me. And it was a real and when I was struggling with this with my therapist, and he said to me, and it was one day when I'd fallen off the wagon, like over 3 years, I'd fallen off the wagon like so many times. And he said to me, after this had happened again, he said to me, Brett, do you understand the volume of pressure that's coming from the outside? And I said, what do you mean? He said, you're taking it very personally that you're failing yourself. And you obviously know John and how beautiful and how kind he is in how he helps you see things. And he said to me, Brett, every single time there's an alcohol commercial, and he watched something the other night, he actually told me there were 7 ads within 10 minutes on SABC channel, and 7 ads that are alcohol, and every single alcohol commercial is orientated around a scenario that is uplifting, joining community sort of energy. So there's always this association that then plays into our subconscious, into the back of the mind, that then drives our behavior. So that whenever, and this is the big thing I struggled with for 3 years, was, okay, so it's my mom's 80th. I want to have a nice bottle of wine. And he was like, yeah, okay. And then eventually he said, just understand that there is more influencing you here than you're taking ownership of your failure. So just be empathic to yourself around the programming that's happened. So when you spoke about authenticity, like that true authenticity, I find it's such an onion, because there's an unraveling that I've experienced in me finding my authenticity. And this second podcast is a big expression of that. Like, I'm petrified to put myself out there and to also put these stories around there. But it's a breaking off of like one layer to another to realize like how much we've been authentic our whole life, and that it's a process that you unpack one, celebrate that, unpack another, and become more cognizant and aware and conscious of the other influences that are pushing on us. So that, I suppose, leads me to another question, is that there's so much, and I had somebody who came into Cape Town a couple of days ago, and she said to me, the heaviness of the energy in Cape Town right now is palpable. It is really palpable. So there's a lot of hectic fear sitting over the city right now, and I'm sure everywhere. And I felt that I've been feeling anxiety around that feeling. How would you, with your wisdom, give people a little bit of insight that might help them shift that, understand that, differentiate themselves from that, or a real practical technique to be able to kind of recognize that there's an overwhelming energy that's coming at us right now? How do we start to kind of create our own, not vacuum of energy, but support our vibration, our energy, our happiness, our joy, our connection with our authentic self? Like, what is your wisdom around that, Kate?
Well, I think firstly we must understand that we exist within a collective consciousness.
Okay.
So we don't live, and I'm just going to try and explain simply as possible. We don't live on the planet. We live in the planet. So the planet is like this sphere that we live within.
Sure.
And as a result, if you think about it, it's a sphere, it's a bubble. And everything that exists on this planet is in that bubble. Every person, every animal, every plant, everything. And it creates a network of energy, a matrix of energy, if for want of a better word. And human beings have their own unique matrix of energy. So when I say that there's a shift in human consciousness, there's a shift in that matrix that is happening. And it is something that is being felt by every single person. So what we don't understand and recognize is that we are connected to this matrix. Whether we're conscious or unconscious of it, it's immaterial. We are connected to it. For most people, they are unconsciously aware of this connection. So we don't realize and recognize that if the majority of the collective is feeling stress, anxiety, and fear and worry, or whatever, that energy is going to be permeating through this matrix and impacting you as an individual. So you, not only are you dealing with your own fear, worry, and anxiety and stress, you are also now adding everyone else's to you as well, which enhances it all and makes it really, really uncomfortable. I mean, I had the experience of needing to go out and do some shopping, and every time I had to go out of the house to go off to get some groceries, I'd come home and I was absolutely shattered. I was like, I had to go and have a little sleep because, after the third time, I was like, what is going on here? And what I realized was that my home is my sanctuary. It's my little bubble of peace. And every time I was going to the shops, I was engaging with this collective consciousness of fear, and having to resist that. And because of the resistance, that was causing the exhaustion. So I realized that I actually needed to kind of strengthen myself from a psychological and energetic perspective to be able to go out and go to the shops. So now I make sure that I'm feeling pretty strong before I do that. Cool. And there are so many ways that you can do that. There are so many tools available. I think that everyone has to kind of find the ways that work for them. Certainly for me, and this ties into your original question, which was a long time ago now, about energy healing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so you see, we get there. With energy healing, the focus that I work with, and this will tie into what I'm talking about with regards to the collective. But if you can understand that, you're connected to this matrix of energy, but you have your own unique energy system that is made up of 4 different bodies. So you have your physical body, you have your emotional body, you have your mental body, and you have your spiritual body. So, and they are contained in this energy system, or this energy field. If you need a visual of it, you can imagine it. It's like an egg that surrounds you, and within this egg, from an energetic perspective, is an energy signature or memory or imprint of every single thing that you have ever experienced in your life. Every thought, every emotion, every physical experience, every spiritual experience, everything is held within this energy field. If and this is, this will also tie into why energy healing and therapy work so well together, because a lot of the people that I see, they come to me as their kind of last resort. It's like, I've been doing 10 years of therapy. I recognize what my patterns are. I know that I'm repeating the same things over and over and over again. I'm having the same experiences. I can't get out of this. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, blah, 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 blah. And I've tried everything. And someone like you, Brett, has said, we'll go and see Kate. And why that happens is because within their energy field, the imprint of all these experiences fuels the bad behavior, or the negative pattern, or the negative belief, or whatever. It's like fuel. It just says, you step into a situation, or you step into a relationship, or some kind of experience, and all of a sudden it triggers an old memory of something that feels similar to this, and all of that resulting energy comes back, and it plays into the experience that you're having now. Hence why we keep repeating the patterns.
Sure.
So the work that I do is to clear those energy bodies, and to clear the energy field, and to clear the energy system of all of this old gunk that isn't actually needed. You don't need the fuel. Because actually what it does is it blocks you from being able to take new opportunities, to be able to choose different ways of being and living and relating, etc. So going back to the collective consciousness, our little egg needs to be clear. And we need to practice certain things in order to keep that energy field clear. Energy healing is one practice that is hugely beneficial to everyone. I don't know anyone who hasn't had a good positive result from energy healing, even if it is just one session. Things like meditation, really important. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a group that I'm working with this week about the benefits of meditation. We know it reduces stress, it calms the mind, it creates a physiological response in our central nervous system by calming that whole central nervous system down, and enabling us and freeing us from that stress response of fight, flight, or freeze. There are so many benefits to meditation. And one of the conversations I had this week is how through meditation we are able to reclaim our sovereignty, reclaim our authenticity. And this, of course, is happening on a very subtle level, but it's a start. It's an actual start, which most people don't really know where to start. Meditation can be a start. And there are many different ways of meditating, and I think that people have got to find what works for them. I'm certainly not one of those people that can sit for 45 minutes in silence. I just can't do it. I'm too busy thinking about what I've got to cook for dinner, or what child I've got to fetch and take to some extramural activity, or what's my diary look like tomorrow? Am I going to be able to have a sleep? And my mind just goes to those.
Absolutely, it's nice to know that you're human too, as well as this angelic being in my life.
Yeah, well, very human at times. so for me, I kind of work with guided meditations, and I mean there are thousands available out there. There are some incredible apps that you can download, and so working with those guided meditations is really key. Another great way to meditate, certainly if you're beginning, is to listen to mantras. I mean, there's some incredibly beautiful mantras that I play, much to my children's horror, all the time. And and also, another one, and I know for some people it's really hard, but being in nature at the moment, certainly with lockdown, is being in nature. In nature is an incredible energy cleanser. It is the beauty of what nature gives us. Is it will purify our energy systems. And for anyone that has had a rough day and goes to the beach and dives into the sea, they come out of there feeling like a new person. And that is because that ocean is purifying your energy field, is cleansing and clearing your energy field of all the gunk that you carried for days or weeks or months or years. So just being in nature is a meditation all on its own. And the more we do that, the more we connect with nature, the more we start to feel that peace and that acceptance and that serenity around, what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't resonate more with all three of those things. So, like, obviously, I would love everybody who I know and who watches this to come and see you, because you've been my greatest guide, I would say, to getting me to a point where I've gotten, how do I say it?
And I said,
Yeah.
you're not listening.
Well, that, and I've also, I suppose that's the core, but
not to me, to yourself.
No. Sometimes you speak cuck too, but in fact, a lot of the time you speak cuck. But usually it's like from a divine source. So I appreciate it. But what I think I've realized is that I've started to really shift in a way that I've started to really love myself and the shadow side of me. And this is something that I'm still so curious about. And like, I've spoken to you about conspiracy theories before this, and there's just that the discomfort with the shadow part of myself, the shadow part of life, the shadow part of like what the elites might be doing, according to David Icke. And and I think I mentioned just before that something happened yesterday that I got to a point where I just felt this deep sense of calm just anchor. And I've struggled with my meditations, and I've meditated quite consistently for about 3 years now. And yesterday, my best meditation that I've ever had in lockdown, and then this morning again, I just felt like I got into that space. And I don't know where the hell I was going with this, but what I think I've kind of realized is that the more I've worked with you, the more I've opened myself to different kind of spiritual aspects of myself, the more I've started to love who I am. And that has made all the difference. And that's also why Fierce Compassion is the kind of brand that I work with at the moment. The other thing around, so all of you who are listening, please contact Kate and set up a Skype session with her at the moment, or face to face when we get out of lockdown. She's amazing. The second thing is around like meditation, and that has been a very interesting journey for me as well, because I've tried for 10 years, and only over the last 3 years have I started to get to change it from a chore into something that gives me space and room. And that for me has, and it's taken that long to get to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to it, as opposed to like, oh yeah, now I've got to sit with this nothingness and become bloody zen. And I'm like, it drives me insane. And now I'm more, it's becoming a lot more favorable. So I'm finding that the meditation thing has happened over such a long period of time. And I just connected with my sister, and she struggles with it at the moment. And I think what I'm starting to realize now is that like, it's a journey that just needs to be started, and that whatever you can handle with capacity and willingness where you are is what you need to honor, and then move along there. And the third thing that you've spoken to on the nature, Jockey, like I think every single big realization or shift that I've ever have happened in my life has happened in a natural environment. And now I use things like the Fish River Canyon. I did that hike twice last year, where you sleep under the stars, and the shifts that happened and the connection with myself and my understanding of my relationship to the world and to nature and to love and to my partner and to everything everything seems to get distilled quite beautifully in that environment. And it's just something that I've become more aware of, on how freaking powerful it is, even if nothing else, to watch a sunset or the sky change color. Not necessarily kind of sitting in the where we can't now, in the mountain right behind us, but it's just being able to kind of watch a sunrise or a sunset and just feel what happens within that. So thank you. I mean, those three are I heard you speak to them in a webinar the other night, and they couldn't have landed more accurately within my experience of what's been the things that I've invested time in, and that has yielded the rewards like no end. I mean, you listened to my ramblings yesterday around how grateful I am. I'm sitting in a position now in lockdown with all of the discomfort, but at the same time having the deepest experience of gratitude that I've ever had in this life. And it's like a piece, it's just like this little subtle piece just kind of rises inside of you, and it just sits there. And from there, I feel like I'm tapping into a different level of intelligence, of wisdom, of breadthness.
Authenticity.
There we go. Which has got a lot to do with you and the trust in the relationship that we've both developed in this, in you being my kind of soul guide. And for that, I'm unbelievably grateful. It's obviously one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of start this whole podcasty funny thing with you. So I suppose thanks, Kate. I mean, I've said it to you personally the stacks of times, but there's just one story that I experienced. So about a year ago, so I went to see Kate, and it was such and this is testament to everything that you've spoken to. So everything that we've discussed right now. And you said to me, Brett, you're going to have a point in this year that you're going to contact me and you're going to say you're the happiest you've ever been. And I remember looking at you going, no, you're speaking cuck now, man. And then about 3 or 4 months after that, I don't know what was happening in my life, but I remember financially, I wasn't doing well at all. I've been in a roller coaster since I've kind of really been thrown myself into a space where I'm developing my own brand, my own offerings, my own services. And I've been building on that for years and years and years. But I got to a point where financially, I wasn't really in a good space. There was nothing notable in the rest of my life that was really happening that was favorable, as it were. Everything was kind of neutral or not so kept. And I remember sitting there and I had this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And then I thought of you and I just chuckled, because I thought, frig it, Kate has told me that I'm going to get to this moment, and I'd gotten to that moment. And I remember contacting you and sending you, I think it was a WhatsApp. And I said to you, so weird, but what you said 6 months ago, nothing is right in my life. And I expected to have the right things happen in order for that feeling to come, but nothing had happened in my life that gave me that feeling. But I had reached such a level of contentment that I just had this peace. And again, there's that peace that comes in. And I think that this is the reward for all the hard work, this is centeredness that I'm starting to feel more and more in my life now. But I remember that so clearly, and just contacting you and saying, it's happened. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Nothing's kiff, nothing's right, but I'm so friggin' happy. And for me, that is the best example I think I could use to explain to people the value of personal development, soul connection, exploring self with in and out, but obviously on the inside, and the work that you've helped me achieve. And I didn't realize,
you didn't realize?
I didn't realize that this is a long-winded way of me getting to a thank you. Interesting one, eh? Yeah, it took me a while to get through that. But
well, we do follow these journeys.
Yeah. But thank you. because I mean, you know this. I've told you. Like it's you play a big role in me having gotten to this point. And I think you and people who are in the world like you have your ability and have traveled a hard path, because I know you've had a very challenging life path, and I've constantly been at you for writing a book. But like in working with a practitioner who's also experienced stuff to get to a point where they've developed their skill against that, because I tend to trust people who've been down a hard journey, and I know you have, in order to reveal and open a skill and a part of them that is service and healing for other people. So also for that and what you do for other people, because I send all of my friends to you, all of the people who I love I send to you, and they come back better.
Oh, thanks, Ray.
So thanks, man.
I mean, it is, I have to say, it is an absolute pleasure and has always been a pleasure working with you. Never mind the laughs that we have along the well, maybe the laughs that I have along the way at your expense.
Originally, yes, in the formative years, for sure. Now I get to laugh with you around me. And how foolish
we laugh together now. But it really is. I mean, it's incredible to be able to work with someone who is so willing to do the work. And I mean, that's what makes you stand out head and shoulders, in so many ways, because you have gone to those dark places and you have looked at the darkness and the shadow. You spoke about that earlier. You've gone there. You've looked at that. You've unpacked it. And you've been willing to embrace it, and it is, it's that embracing of it that brings the healing. We often think that there's a reward for the hard work that we do. The reward is going to be money and success, or a beautiful relationship, or whatever. But actually, no, the reward is that certainly for me, that inner peace and that total feeling of fulfillment, even though the shit hasn't really come together yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, that for me is testament, because I remember so many years and also asking you, this has happened so often, like, Kate, there's this girl, I'm interested in her. And then you go, no, time is cuck. You're not, and I remember like after you're 14 or something going like, I think Kate's relationships, like the higher level thing, is broken completely, because now like flipping, I'm never going to get into a lack of relationship. And then what happened 2 weeks after that moment that I described, that everything just felt, I met my partner, who I'm now engaged to, after less than a year, living in a house that is absolutely ideal. I've got more awesomeness in my life now than I've ever had. So it comes as a consequence of the peace and the work. That has been my experience, which has been, it's nice to be on the receiving.
It's nice to be on the other side.
Yeah. Lucky. Very lucky. Okay. So now, just to kind of end this off, the one thing that I'd like to ask you, and I always ask you on my sessions, is that you do have an ability and a skill, and I understand it, that you can connect with a higher wisdom that I have. Okay, I'm going to talk. I'm talking shit now. So So, is there anything else that you are impelled to speak into now to close this off? Because I feel like we've covered like really a beautiful part that would give people a lot of faith and a lot of belief that there is something very sacred happening here, and it's not all to be feared, and something quite beautiful if we choose to take that stance and take that look inward. But is there anything else that you'd want to kind of mention that you feel drawn to speak to, okay, before we close this?
Yeah, I mean, what's coming to me now, initially I was like, yeah, thanks, Brett, no pressure. But actually, what's coming to me now is the memory of a dream that I had, and this dream might have been 10 years ago. I can't remember, but it was a while ago. And some of the dreams that I have are and my therapist loves them, are quite detailed as to, what's kind of going on for me on a psychological level and an unconscious level, and we can unpack those. And then there are other dreams that I have that seem quite prophetic in a lot of ways, and they just feel different. And this is one of those dreams. And I was standing on top of a mountain, one of the mountains here where I live, and I was kind of looking over Cape Town. And there was some being was with me. It wasn't, I don't know who it was, but it was someone, and I was very comfortable with this person. And we were looking over this incredible view of Cape Town, and it was beautiful. The sun was shining, everything was lush and green and alive and vibrant, and I was kind of sitting there thinking, oh, this, that breath that you can release when you look at nature and really truly appreciate it. And then to the right of me was this like weird sheet of energy, and it was quite solid, but it was a bit like a waterfall. And I was thinking, and I remember saying to the person who was with me, what is this thing? And he said to me, just stick your head through. So I was like, okay, stuck my head through, and it was exactly the same view, but it was like Armageddon had happened. The sky was grey, everything was burnt, everything was on fire. It was just absolute destruction. And I pulled my head back to the other side, and it was all beautiful. And I stuck my head back to through this energy waterfall thing, and destruction. And I was like, what are you trying to show me here? What is this? What am I looking at here? And I was told, it is important that we all consciously choose the reality that we want to exist in. Because we can choose to see the world as coming to an end right now. We can choose to see this experience that we are having as Armageddon. Or we can choose take the opportunity and choose this experience as the most incredibly beautiful, life-changing, and positive time in our lives. I mean, when have we ever had time where we've got, certainly so far, 33 days, of not having to rush around like mad things, doing all the things that we've always done that are not necessarily fun. We have the opportunity to choose the reality. What do you want your reality to be? Are you going to slide into the fear and the anxiety and the worry and only see this as Armageddon? Or are you going to choose this as the greatest opportunity, or one of the greatest opportunities in your life, to bring about positive change?
Yeah, I mean, it's so, thanks. I don't quite know what to say, because I really resonate with that, because I think I'm starting to realize that my belief system dictates what happens in my life. Therefore, collectively, if we all believe that something is possibly bad, we can create that. If something is possibly good, we can create that. So that hits a...
it's not to take away from the pain, the real pain and suffering that people are going through. Yes, that is real, and I, Brett, I'm definitely not one of those people who negates that real pain and suffering. I mean, I know what that feels like. I've been in that place myself. But it is more about recognizing, okay, this is painful for me. I am suffering here, and choosing to do something to get yourself out of it, to not be a victim to circumstances.
Yeah.
Because we all have choice, we all have opportunity. If we allow our belief system to be the filter through what we see and how we perceive the world, we're going to struggle. We're going to suffer. It is when we release that belief system and we start to open up to different parts of ourselves, accessing different, accessing the wisdom of our authentic self. When we start, just even starting that journey starts to alleviate the fear, the anxiety, and the worry, because we start to realize there's purpose in my life. There's purpose for me in moving through the suffering. You spoke about earlier about your cancer being the greatest gift that you've ever been given.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look back at my life and see the challenges that I faced, from day one, and be so grateful for them, because, I from a very young age, I was taught not to trust anything or anyone.
Yeah.
And as a result, I haven't bought into anything. I trust me. If my intuition says something is wrong, there's something wrong, even if someone is telling me, no, this is fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's, that's also what we need to get to at this time, is like we need to start working with ourselves. What feels right for me? What doesn't feel right?
Yeah.
Make that make that distinction. Because I think we get sucked into a lot of things that cause suffering in our lives because we buy into a picture that's being presented to us, or a reality that is being shown to us that is not necessarily the truth.
Sure. I mean, Kate, you've spoken to actually quite a few things that around fierce compassion for me. So the intuition is the biggest lesson that I've learned around trusting myself, and not, and that even is with you, is like trusting and this is why I trust you as a practitioner, friend, and as somebody who's very special to me, is that what my inner voice has said has matched what you've said about what's been going on. And that's where I think my keenness to always come back to you has been true, because my voice has gone, yep, what Kate said is pretty much locked on. And yeah, I think there's also this realization of, me having it yesterday with a gratitude post that I did around, it was a window for me of like, wow, this is actually frigging amazing. I'm locked down with my fiance. I'm eating the best I've eaten in my life. I don't have to rush around because, I enjoy a bit of a couch sloth and a book read and things like that, although I've been working quite a bit. But it's just, this has been like yesterday, I realized that this could be heaven. and the power of a lot of people en masse being able to kind of get to a point where they can see the gratitude, as opposed to what David Icke is saying about, the lizards taking us, and where to focus our attention, because that's powerful. Anyway, so bring the lizards in.
Yeah, got it.
Oh my word. Cool. Well, Kate,
thank you, Brett.
Thank you. That was, this was one of the funnest things that I could have done with my afternoon today. So thank you very much.
You too.
You're a riot. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Kate. She is really a phenomenal human being, and I couldn't recommend her more highly around having a session with her just to kind of check in and see if her work resonates with you. She just really seems to have this ability to really connect one with a higher self, or God essence, or spirituality, or God, or Allah, or universe, or great smoke, or whatever your name for this seemingly incredible, creative, compassionate intelligence that's around ourselves in this human form. And it's very useful to be able to kind of really tap into that energy that seems to, I suppose, be infused in our world, in our experience in life, in coincidence, in compassion. So yeah, I highly recommend having a consultation with Kate. Her website is spiritpathways.co.za. I encourage you to like her on either Instagram or Facebook. It's Spirit Pathways Kate Spreckley, and she has these daily reminders that are just 2 paragraphs long, and it really it's her tapping into the energy of where we are at the moment, and just giving a little bit of wisdom around what you might be going through. The premise is around spirituality, that we're all connected. So I have found that her daily messages have just been really comforting, I suppose is the best word. But I do highly recommend having a Skype session or Zoom session or online session with Kate. You will not regret it. She's an amazing human being, and I recommend anybody who's open to her, who might be open to this format of counsel or coaching or therapy, as it were, would really benefit from her gift. So have yourself a beautiful day, and till the next podcast. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for listening. I sincerely appreciate it.